Hello and welcome once again to another bearing removal and installation video featuring Boca bearings. Now today's engine is a recent acquisition from eBay that I found at a fantastic price, and I thought this would be a good representative engine to use for testing a buddy of mine, Garrett's, his swamp juice fuel formula. So now when I purchased this engine off eBay, the ad said that it was freshly cleaned up and new bearings installed in it. However, I'm still going to go ahead and replace the bearings and inspect this engine just to make sure it's in tip-top shape so that I can do some valid testing experience with the swamp juice fuel alternative. So with that said, let's go to the table and I'll show you this engine in a state just prior to having the bearings removed and replaced. Okay, so here is the Magnum engine that I'll be replacing the bearings in today, and this engine is very clean. It looks like a low-time engine. In fact, I've got the piston out right here, and to me this almost looks brand new. So whoever did the servicing on this did a really fine job on it. Many of you may or may not know, I don't know, Magnum and ASP, I believe, were made in the same factory in China. So you're going to see a lot of similarities between an ASP 108 and a Magnum 108. But this is a rather large engine, and it actually has 91 stamped on this carb. So I would think that means that the 91 size and the 108 share the same carburetor. Now it looks like there's a little bit of, this is a Super Tiger throttle arm. So maybe this isn't exactly completely stock anymore. But this is what the engine looks like. And like I said, it's in fantastic shape. So let me go ahead and pop these bearings out and we'll get some new ones in. And again, you may say, well, why are you replacing bearings in an engine that doesn't need to have them replaced? Well, several reasons. I want to make sure that I put Boca bearings in all of the engines that I'm running. And also, one of the reasons is to validate that the kit number of the parts, or the kit number for this engine from Boca's website, is correct and is populated with the proper size bearings. That's just one of the things I'm doing for Boca while I'm doing these things, is to validate their website and identify any potential issues. So with all that said, let me clean some of this stuff up and we'll get these bearings popped out and replaced. Okay, so I've got all the carb, head, rear cover, all that stuff off this engine now. So now it should just be a very simple matter. I like to always say a very simple matter of just popping these bearings out. But I also have part of Boca's miniature bearing removal set here, one of the chucks, just in the off chance that this big main bearing doesn't come off with this crankshaft, because you never really know if that's going to happen or not. So let's just get my glove on. And we'll just start heating this massive crankcase up. Okay, it may take a little bit more than just that. Hey, look at that, the bearing came out on the crankshaft and it's all oiled up, and this is clean. Won't be needing that tool. So let's pop this front bearing out now, and then we can get right to the installation. I don't think I've ever seen a front bearing give me so much trouble. And there it goes, off the table. I'll go retrieve that here. Let's see how difficult it's going to be to get this bearing off this crankshaft. Not hard at all. So there you have it. Let me go grab that front bearing. Alright, so the good thing with this particular situation and this particular engine is I'm not going to need to do any cleaning here at all. Actually, it looks like there's a little bit of grunge in here that I'm going to swab out. But yeah, these bearings feel fine. I don't think that they're bad in any way, shape, or form, but we will be comparing them with the Boca set that I've got. So let me go and do a little bit of, I'm probably going to take this crankshaft down to my bench grinder and just clean this up just a bit more. And then I will be right back and we will get some bearings installed. Okay, so I just came back up. I've got this crankshaft all polished and shiny. Looks like it just came straight from the factory. As I said, the crankcase itself didn't really need a whole lot of cleaning. I did go in here and clean the front bearing area that had some gunk in there for whatever reason. And the more I was sitting here looking at this crankcase, I'm noticing that there are areas on here where this has been polished. So I don't know, it's very obvious to me to tell that areas of this crankcase have been polished to make it look a little bit better. So I don't really know what the history of this engine was, but it's definitely not brand new because I don't know that anybody would go and just start polishing the engine case like that if it was new. So with all that said, I've got my tools here necessary to do this bearing installation, and one of the main ones is this Lightning Lube Road Power from Boca that I use as my bearing installation and reassembly oil, and I've got some already in my glass jar. I've got the old set of bearings and some tools here that I'm going to need to get these bearings ready to go. So let me go ahead and just look at this kit number. This is the fresh set of Boca bearings that are going in here, and this kit number is ENK-010. So just looking at it from these, it looks like these are the correct size bearings for this. So let's just take them out and see. This small one is an MR6000, which is almost big enough to be the rear bearing in many other engines. And this massive rear bearing is an MR6904. And obviously both of these are ZZs, or metal shielded bearings. So yeah, that's definitely a match there. So we'll put that one off to the side. Definitely a match there. For a new bearing though, this doesn't look as polished and shiny as I would think it would. Maybe it was just a low time bearing, I don't know. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove the shield on one side of this front bearing, as I always do, and then I'll remove both shields on this rear bearing. The larger the bearing, the easier the shield to remove. Look at that, look how easy that was. Now those are nice looking bearings. Alright, so let's get some lubrication going here. Get this crankshaft all oiled up and ready to accept some bearings. Same thing with here. Not only do I oil the bearing area in here, but as long as I'm in here, I usually kind of try and slather all around inside the whole area, so that when I go to reassemble it, that's one less thing I have to mess with. Okay, so let me start by just putting this rear bearing on this crankshaft here. Seems like I'm having a rash of issues where all of a sudden these just don't want to slide on there. That is not wanting to go on. Let's test this one just for the heck of it and see if it wants to just slide right on there either. That one does. Maybe it's all a matter of having it straight. Maybe it's just a matter of getting it over that little edge there. And there we go. Boy, that's beautiful. Alright, so as usual, I'm going to put my front bearing in first, and then use that as a centering mechanism here for the rear bearing and crankshaft to go in. Alrighty, so now it's just time to heat this crankcase up a little bit. Well, with the size of it, it might be a bit more than a little bit. Let's see if that's enough. One thing I think I'm going to have to do here is probably raise this platform up when I go to put the rear bearing and crankshaft in, because I don't think it's tall enough for the length of this crankshaft. There we go. Front's installed, so like I said, I'm probably going to have to raise this platform up a bit here. Except I need to make sure my hole here is out of the way of the crankshaft. Okay, so this really didn't seem like it took a whole lot of heat. So I think because of the size of this, I'm going to go ahead and heat this up some more. Alright, well, it's smoking, so that's usually a pretty good sign here. Looks like that's going to go in there real nice. So let's just tap this into place. Hopefully it's not too hot. That's going to have to go in just a hair more. There we go. Now it's in there. Alright, so there we have it. This engine is now ready for me to reassemble it, and we can start doing some swamp juice alternative fuel testing on it.